You wake up early, maybe before the sun's even up. You check your phone, already thinking about work, bills, responsibilities. You go through the same routine, commute, meetings, deadlines, just trying to stay on top of everything, and at the end of the month, you do what you're supposed to do. You save a little. Maybe not much, but enough to feel like you're being responsible. But here's the thing. Nothing really changes. Your bank account isn't empty, but it's not growing in any meaningful way either. You're not struggling enough to panic, but not progressing enough to feel secure. And that's the frustrating part. You're doing what people told you to do. Work hard, save money, be disciplined. So why does it feel like you're stuck in the exact same place? Look, this is where it gets really interesting, because the problem isn't that you're not trying. It's that you've been following rules that were never designed to actually move you forward. Now, you might be thinking, maybe you just need to try harder, work more hours, save a little extra, maybe finally start investing. That's what everyone says, right? But look, if doing more of the same actually worked, you wouldn't feel stuck in the first place. Here's what most people don't realize. Financial progress isn't about effort alone. It's about direction. You can work incredibly hard and still go nowhere if the system you're following is flawed. My name is Dimas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. In this video, we're not just talking about saving or investing. We're breaking down the rules that actually control how money works in real life. Rules most people ignore, misunderstand, or never even learn in the first place. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. So let's talk about the advice you've been hearing your entire life. Save more money. Start investing early. Avoid debt. Live below your means. Look, none of that is wrong. But here's the thing. It's not enough. Because that advice assumes your situation is simple. Stable income, no pressure, no unexpected expenses, and most importantly, perfect behavior. But real life doesn't work like that. Here's what most people don't realize. Generic advice creates average results. And average results are exactly what keep people stuck. You can save money and still feel broke. You can invest and still make poor decisions. You can avoid debt and still never build wealth. This is where it gets really interesting. The issue isn't information, it's application. Most people are following rules that don't account for how money actually behaves in the real world, or how humans behave around money. And until that changes, nothing else will. So before we even talk about growing your money, we need to fix what's quietly holding you back. Here's the thing. Most people jump straight into investing because it feels productive. It feels like progress. But if your spending is leaking money every single day, investing won't save you. Let's make it real. Say you invest $300 a month. That sounds solid. Over time, that grows, but at the same time, you're casually spending $10 a day on things you barely think about. That's $3,600 a year, money that disappears without creating anything for you. Now you're basically trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. And this is where it gets even more serious. Debt. Now you might be thinking, I can invest and pay debt at the same time. Look. If your debt is charging 15%, 18%, even 20% interest, you're losing money every single day. No investment consistently beats that. Here's what most people don't realize. Before you grow money, you have to stop losing it first. Once you've stopped the leaks, this is where things start to shift. Now, you might be thinking, I just need to be more disciplined with saving. But look, there's a limit to how much you can cut. You can only reduce your expenses so far before it starts affecting your quality of life. Here's the thing. Your income doesn't have that limit. Let's break it down. If you manage to save an extra $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year. Solid but slow. Now compare that to increasing your income by $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. Same effort category, completely different impact. This is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. That's your cash flow, and cash flow is what gives you options. Here's what most people don't realize. Wealth starts accelerating when your income growth outpaces your lifestyle. That's when you stop surviving and start building. Now this is where most people lose the game. And they don't even realize it. You can have a solid plan. You can understand investing. You can even start doing the right things and still fail. Why? Because of behavior. Here's the thing. Money decisions are rarely logical. They're emotional. When the market drops, you feel fear. You start thinking, what if it keeps going down? So you pull your money out. Then later, when things recover, you jump back in, usually at a higher price. That's not strategy. That's reaction. This is called loss aversion. Losing feels worse than winning, feels good, so your brain tries to avoid pain, even if it means making worse decisions. And then there's lifestyle inflation. You earn more, so you spend more. It feels justified. You worked for it, right? But now your expenses grow just as fast as your income. Here's what most people don't realize. Your biggest financial enemy isn't the market. It's your own behavior. So if behavior is the problem, the solution isn't more motivation. It's better systems. Look, relying on willpower is unreliable. Some days you're disciplined, other days you're tired, stressed, or just not thinking clearly. And that inconsistency is exactly what keeps people stuck. Here's the thing. You need a structure that works even when you don't feel like it. Start with stability. An emergency fund isn't exciting, but it's what keeps one bad situation from turning into a financial spiral. Without it, every unexpected expense pushes you back into debt or forces you to make rushed decisions. Then comes your investing system. Not random picks, not chasing trends, something consistent. Automatic contributions, a clear allocation, and a long-term perspective. And this is where it gets really interesting. Your environment matters more than you think. If the people around you normalize overspending or avoid talking about money, that becomes your baseline. Here's what most people don't realize. Financial progress isn't built on perfect decisions, but on systems that make good decisions automatic. This is the part nobody likes to hear, because it sounds too simple. Wealth is built in boring seasons. Not when everything is exciting, not when the market is booming, not when you feel motivated, but when nothing seems to be happening. Here's the thing. Most people overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. They want fast results, quick wins, visible progress. And when they don't see it, they quit. Now you might be thinking, but I want to move faster. Look, speed comes from consistency, not intensity. This is where it gets really interesting. Small, repeated actions start compounding, investing the same amount every month, keeping your expenses under control, increasing your income gradually. It doesn't feel powerful in the moment, but over time, it becomes unstoppable. Here's what most people don't realize. The people who build real wealth aren't doing anything crazy. They're just doing simple things consistently for a long time. So let's make this real, because understanding all of this doesn't change anything unless you act on it. Here's the thing. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a clear starting point. First, track your spending for the next 30 days. No guessing. You need to see exactly where your money is going. That alone will open your eyes. Second, if you have high-interest debt, focus on that aggressively. Don't split your attention. Eliminate it. Third, build a basic emergency fund. Even 1 or 2 months of expenses is a strong start. Then, start investing consistently. Not perfectly, not aggressively, just consistently. And at the same time, work on increasing your income. Skills, opportunities, side income, anything that expands your earning capacity. Look, you're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you've been following unclear rules. Now you have better ones. So the real question is, are you actually going to use them? Because over time, this is how everything changes.